Are you ready? Are you ready for the news time? Yes, my name is Phil Chambers and I am back with Gareth Morgan to talk about everything that happened on the crazy WWE draft that was on WWE SmackDown last night. So there's loads to get through, but before we do, make sure to subscribe to the video, subscribe to the channel even, like the video, and comment down below what you think of all of today's news stories, including the WWE draft that was last night, and there's timestamps to each story, so click them and away you go. But first up, there were 3 big returns on SmackDown last night. So the first 2 that I'm going to talk about was the New Day. They are back. Big E had a brutal Falls Count Anywhere match with Sheamus that went all around the building. They were hitting each other with mops and everything they could find, slamming Big E on car windows. Big E was all cut up from the window, and then it ended with a big ending off the top of a car through a table. Big E beats Sheamus, and then later on backstage he was with Kayla Braxton, and in comes who else but Kofi Kingston and then Xavier Woods. And yeah, the New Day are back together for a bit. Because later on in the night, it was the New Day going up against Cesaro and Shinsuke Nakamura. Of course, the New Day win the SmackDown Tag Team Championships to become the 7-time champions, and then straight away out comes Stephanie McMahon and announces that the New Day, as in Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston, have been drafted to Raw with the SmackDown Tag Team Championships, and Big E was the next draft pick for SmackDown. So they are breaking up the New Day for the first time in however long, almost 10 years. And yeah, this is the way they're going with it. Seems good for Big E. They're still getting this singles push, and great for Kofi and Xavier obviously to be back. But a little bit of a sad time as well for the breakup of the New Day.
Yeah, it was that awful knowing thing. I think as soon as they won those belts and Big E came out, I was like, it's a bit too good to be true. We don't get things we like here on SmackDown, but it is bittersweet because it's great. It's great that like they're gonna carry on putting Big E in the under the spotlight, and he proved in that Falls Count Anywhere match that he can more than handle that. He was brilliant. Like he brought it, absolutely brought it. He was cut to pieces by the end of it. It was excellent. But equally, I'm interested to see what happens now, obviously, with the SmackDown Tag Team titles, because does that mean the Street Profits are going to come over to Raw, or potentially they could have a big unification match and just have those tag titles be like cross-brand?
That's the one I want.
Well, that's the best one.
Do it like the women's titles. It's just better. You've got bugger all tag teams, and if you keep breaking them up, you're going to have even less. More of that in a bit.
Exactly. But I think then my knee-jerk response to it is there's a lot of positives that can come from it. It's a bit sad, but you never know. Like this tag run right now, this tag team title run that they've got now, Kofi and Xavier, might not last forever. We might actually get that thing that was proposed a while back now, where you get Xavier Woods managing Kofi on Raw, and then him managing Big E on SmackDown. So it could be good. It could work out for the best. But in terms of return,
although you've got to imagine, in terms of a draft pick at Raw, if you're the draft strategist or whatever they have backstage at Raw, and you go, I want the New Day, but I'm not going to draft them all in one pick. I'm just going to draft Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston and hope for the best. Oh darn, SmackDown picked Big E. Really, really dumb move. Doesn't make any sense whatsoever. You could have them all in one. It's easy. You did that with the Hurt Business. You got 4 when SmackDown only got 1 person. Stupid.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. Now I feel stupid for not. That's a very good point. Silly USA Network. You get what you deserve. Okay, but there were other returns on this big Smack. It was a hell of a show, I've got to say. Like I was getting excited last night just thinking about this show, and it delivered. It was great. But there was a huge return in the form of Lars Sullivan, who, of course, we've not seen since I believe it was the summer of 2019, when he just went on a rampage and mauled the Lucha House Party and the Hardy Boys. But he is now back. He again went after a Hardy Boy because I think he's just got a fetish, just likes taking out Jeff Hardy. And we've got a few more notes and a few more things surrounding his return. Fightful Selective reported that when he initially went down with that knee injury in June of 2019, people really assumed that he'd be back maybe midway through 2020, maybe summer 2020. But Sullivan himself has had a few knee injuries in the past. He was like, nah, I'll be fine. I'll get back pretty soon. I'll be back sharpish. I may even be back for WrestleMania. We'll see. But as we know, the injury was a bit more complicated. It turned out that he needed to get both of his knees fixed, which is Anybody who's had any knee injuries in the past, that is a huge job, a lot of recovery time. So his estimated return went from around a year to 16 to 18 months. So that's exactly where we are now. And obviously, Sullivan, when he was first getting pushed, when he first came onto the main roster, there was plans potentially for him to be going up against John Cena, maybe even against Brock Lesnar at one point. But he got a bit of heat over some racial comments that he put on social media and the rest of it, and that they resurfaced from his time before he actually joined WWE. So it seems like now he's in a position where he's had struggles in the past. He's been very open about his struggles with mental health and everything else, like in the past. So he seems like he's in a good headspace now where he can maybe deliver on the promise that he showed in NXT and the rest of it. It's an interesting time. I think wherever he lands, he's a more than capable monster. But it definitely wasn't something I was expecting.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think anyone really expected this as a return on the first night of the draft. Straight away as well, we should be noted that Stephanie McMahon announced that he's going to be added to the Raw draft pool. So he will be drafted on next week's Raw. And I guess it feels like he feels more of a Raw superstar than a SmackDown superstar, doesn't he? So I would assume he would end up on Raw. But I guess, going to have to wait and see what happens on Monday. But speaking of SmackDown again, Sasha Banks versus Bayley for the SmackDown Women's Championship did happen, at least for a bit. It was a classic WWE move where they're like, oh yes, hype this thing for ages, it's going to happen on free TV, and then it gets a screwy finish and you get it on the pay-per-view instead, because of course it's just what they do, isn't it? But the match itself, Bayley brought a chair down to the ring with her, so you kind of knew something screwy was going to happen at some point. And I mean, these two work so bloody well together. They only had 5 minutes, and in that 5 minutes, they somehow managed to make it look legitimately like they were trying to kill each other, and also at the same time have just the smoothest wrestling you could possibly hope to see. So when this match does finally happen, it's going to be absolutely brilliant. And later in the show, Sasha Banks was backstage. She basically just said that she is done playing Bayley's games, and it's going to be her versus Bayley for the SmackDown Women's Championship inside Hell in a Cell. That's 3 Hell in a Cell matches we're getting at that pay-per-view, but this is the one I am by far the most looking forward to.
Yeah, and that is saying something on a night that's going to have, which I'm going to talk about in a very few seconds. Yeah. She's going to have 2 really big other Hell in a Cell matches, and you've got to think potentially, does this mean Bayley's going to move over to Raw for a little bit? We hope that they keep
it apart.
So.
Sasha did get drafted to SmackDown on it. Obviously, Bayley is in the Raw pool, so she won't be drafted until next week. So we're going to have to wait and see if they separate them for a while. I think a lot of people thought maybe Bayley retains and then they'd move Sasha to Raw. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure anymore.
It's very interesting. But like I said, there is another big Hell in a Cell match on that card. It is Roman Reigns, the big dog, the tribal chief, Universal Champion. He will be defending his belt against his cousin Jey Uso, and this match is it's just got a lot more interesting in my mind. It was already I was there. You had me. Just take my money. I want to see more of this. But there is now an I quit stipulation in this match. The big dog announced this last night on SmackDown. He was in a weird Godfather-like setting where he was just kind of sat there on his table, just I'm going to tell you some hard truths now, Mr. J. And it was
what were those weird statues behind him?
It was.
They looked like weird little floating babies or something. I didn't quite know what the hell they were.
That's what the tribal chief wants, man. You do you, Roman. You do your thing. It was excellent. Just again, they've not put a foot wrong throughout this. They didn't even have to get in the ring and stare each other down. This was just all through the Titan trot. It was just epic. So he said that it is going to be the first ever I Quit Hell in a Cell match, which, now you think about it, why has that not been done before? Because that is a hell of a combination stipulation match. And he also said after it, if Jey does say I quit, there are going to be repercussions, which is just terrifying. I'm very scared for Jey.
Yeah, he's actually going to murder Jey Uso inside Hell in a Cell, isn't he? I mean, there's a lot of Hell in a Cell to compete on this match. If you've got Drew McIntyre versus Randy Orton, and their storied feud going into Hell in a Cell, you've got Sasha Banks versus Bayley, and their even more storied, years-long feud going into Hell in a Cell, and now a bloody I Quit, family at stake Hell in a Cell match. Which one goes on last? I've no idea. I want it to be Bayley and Sasha because that's the feud I'm most invested in, but also at the same time, Roman and Jey is come out of nowhere with this incredible feud.
Well, I can tell you something. The Hell in a Cell match between Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton is about to have another stipulation added to it. It's going to turn into a Hell in a Cell Splinter Cell match. All right? That's what it's going to be. It's going to be complete darkness.
Dark.
Night vision. No, Drew's not going to have night vision. Randy is, and he's just going to be walking around like just Claymore kicking, just in hope.
Just to nowhere. You just see a little thermal blob of a Claymore click.
I'm up for it. It's something new, something different. Just have him like coming in, like hanging down off the set. It's just, it writes itself, man.
It does. But yeah, draft picks. So I've got them all here. So at the minute, we have, moving over to Raw, or staying on Raw, the WWE Champion Drew McIntyre, the Raw Women's Champion Asuka, so no change there. Hurt Business, all 4 of them, no change there. AJ Styles was the first big draft pick moving over to Raw from SmackDown. I think we all kind of assumed that was going to happen.
I burst out laughing when that happened. I burst out laughing. I was like, yeah, that's about right.
Obvious. Naomi is going to Raw, which I think is good for her. Get her away from the Bayley Sasha storyline and maybe get a bit more of a spotlight on her, hopefully, over there. The Women's Tag Team Champions, Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax, are staying on Raw. Ricochet is staying on Raw. Mandy Rose is staying on Raw. The Miz and John Morrison are being drafted over to Raw. The SmackDown Tag Team Champions, Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods, are going over to Raw. Dana Brooke, huge pick, going over to Raw. Oh, staying on Raw, sorry. Is that...
Yeah, staying.
Yeah, staying on Raw.
She moved under the radar, now she's staying.
Yeah. And Angel Garza staying on Raw. So on the SmackDown side, we've got the Universal Champion, Roman Reigns. We've got the Seth Rollins being moved over from Raw. We've got Sasha Banks staying on SmackDown, Bianca Belair going to SmackDown, Jey Uso staying on SmackDown, Rey and Dominic Mysterio moving over to Raw. They're just taking that whole Seth Rollins versus the Mysterious feud, shoving it on SmackDown. Big E staying on SmackDown, and Otis staying on SmackDown. Interesting that they picked Otis and not Heavy Machinery. So the people left over are, which is going to be announced on Talking Smack at some point today, are Humberto Carrillo, Drew Gulak, Tucker, Mickie James, Lucha House Party, Murphy, and Shorty G.
Yes, and a quick note on that, on a few of those draft picks, because Bianca Belair, oh my god, I'm so buzzing that she's over on SmackDown now, because we just get to talk about her every week, and she's just awesome, amazing, just, so excited about that. A few just odd things in the sense of I'm really upset that Ricochet is staying on Raw, because it's a bit like, no, he's just going to get bullied by the Hurt Business.
He'd be a great fit in that Intercontinental title scene over on SmackDown. It'd be so much better.
Yeah. The AJ stuff, you could see coming a mile off, just hilarious. Just absolutely hilarious.
They basically, it looked like they went, okay, we've got to move AJ to Raw. Who can we swap? Seth, he's like a bit like an AJ, let's swap them. That's perfect switch.
Yeah, and Michael Hamflett, don't think we saw it. We saw what you put on Twitter, all right? Just laughing at us, saying that we've got to review Dominic Mysterio and the Mysterio Seth Rollins stuff now going forward. You know what? I'm fine with that, because I love the Mysterios, okay? Seth Rollins, great. Nothing lasts forever, okay? I hope. Nothing lasts forever. So it'll be great going forward. No, I'm positive, right? Positive guy over here. And sorry.
Sorry, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so the last thing, it's going really well today. A lot of draft excitement, sorry. So the last big thing we're going to talk about is obviously this supplemental draft, which is on the horizon now, which is going to be going down on Talking Smack at some point today, but not sure when. And it is involving a lot of different people, like Phil just said there, but a lot of the potential spoilers, rumours that are going around the internet right now, and this is stuff that's been reported by Fightful Select, is that we are actually going to see, it's going to be official, we're going to see the breakup of Heavy Machinery, because Tucker is reportedly on his way over to Raw. And also, we're going to see Drew Gulak going over to Raw, and Humberto Carrillo, the absolute saint, just really consistent, high-profile superstar wrestler, is going to be staying on Raw as well. And also, staying on SmackDown, we're going to see Kalisto. Reportedly, he's going to stay on SmackDown, which could suggest maybe we're going to get that breakup between the Lucha House Party, which has been happening now for about 70 years. And also, Murphy's on about coming over to SmackDown, so
of course
it's happening, Phil. But it's fine. Be positive. Be positive.
Done.
That's what's happening. Yeah. So they're just rumors at this point. They're just reports that are doing the rounds right now on the internet. But from the looks of things, yeah, a few seismic changes coming on Talking Smack.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing that should be noted as well on SmackDown. they announced there was going to be the big court case between Otis and Miz and Morrison, and it just basically came down to Miz and Morrison got a contingent and it's been moved somewhere else. So that was the end of that story. So
It couldn't
it's
have faded
happening
in.
at some point next week. No,
it is what it is.
It
was a stack show. I had a feeling when
Yeah.
I was watching it, I was like, they can't just throw a court case in the middle of this.
Yeah.
There's too much going on.
So we're gonna have to wait another week to find out what happens with the big Money in the Bank court case.
So that's the biggest takeaways coming out of this first night. That was just night one of this draft. Like I forgot all the way through it. I was like, there's more of this coming. I love drafts. They're great.
There is. So yeah, big week next week. Not only on Monday Night Raw, obviously the rest of the draft, but on SmackDown they have finally announced some big matches. We have a New Day farewell match, which is going to be all of the New Day, all three of them, versus Sheamus, Cesaro, and Shinsuke Nakamura. So that'll be a nice little farewell for the New Day. And we're also going to get to see the Universal title defended on SmackDown as Roman Reigns is going to be taking on Braun Strowman. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens there.
Yeah.
Big week next week.
Because I forgot that Braun Strowman was on SmackDown. My bad.
Yeah, he's been doing the whole Raw Underground thing, and then he was on a swamp. He's not had a good time of it, has he?
No, he's going to beat Roman Reigns, though. Yeah, that's definitely going to happen.
Yeah. Definitely. And that is today's news. Thank you very much for joining us. Coming up later on today, we've got ups and downs for the big draft episode of SmackDown. We're also going to have a podcast about the big draft episode of SmackDown. So head on over to wherever you get your podcast from and find the What Culture Wrestling podcast on there to give that a listen. But in the meantime, you can follow us on Twitter. You can follow me at FilmMyChambers, and you can follow Gareth
At GMorgan04.
And you can follow all of us at WhatCulture WWE. Like I say, subscribe to the video, comment down below what you think of all of today's stories, including all of the draft picks from last night. But most importantly, have yourselves a bloody good day. Goodbye.